All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be talking about a book that I've been hearing about,
Okay.
for a while now.
Yeah.
I've even cracked it open a couple times.
Yeah.
And that is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Oh, yeah. I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited to get into this
Yeah.
because I think, especially for our audience, this is a really, really relevant topic. And Ramit is very good at breaking down sometimes complex financial topics
Totally.
into really digestible advice. So, if you're ready to dive in,
Let's do it.
let's get into it.
Yeah.
One of the first things that really stuck out to me with this book is Ramit's emphasis on automation.
Yes.
And this idea that, you don't need to be like, uh, manually transferring money every month.
Right.
Or tracking every penny. He's all about setting up systems that kind of work in the background.
I love that about his approach. It's all about, setting it and forgetting it. You just kind of put those systems in place and then they just take care of themselves.
Exactly. And so much of personal finance is about psychology, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not even necessarily about, the math or the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding how our brains work.
Right.
And how to kind of trick ourselves into making good decisions.
Totally. Like our brains are wired for instant gratification.
Right.
So automation really helps with that because you're not even tempted to spend that money.
Right, because it's already gone.
It's already working for you. Exactly.
It's already working for you.
Yeah. It's so smart.
So, think about it this way. You set up an automatic transfer to your savings account or to your investment account.
Yeah.
And, 5-10 years down the road,
Mm-hmm.
you've accumulated this nest egg
Yeah.
without even really thinking about it.
And it's amazing how much of a difference that makes psychologically, too.
Right.
Because you're not constantly feeling like you're depriving yourself or sacrificing something. It just happens automatically and you get to enjoy the benefits later on.
Exactly. And this kind of leads into another one of Ramit's core concepts,
Okay.
which is the idea of a conscious spending plan.
Ooh, I like that.
So, a lot of personal finance advice kind of revolves around the idea of budgeting,
Mm-hmm.
right? And,
Yeah.
tracking every dollar.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that just feels restrictive.
Feels like a diet, right?
Exactly. It feels like a diet. And so Ramit kind of flips that on its head.
Yeah.
And says, instead of focusing on what you can't spend, focus on what you want to spend on.
I love that.
Right? So
Yeah.
identify what your core values are.
Mm.
What are the things that are most important to you? And then make sure that your spending aligns with those values.
Okay, so for example, like if travel is really important to you,
Exactly.
then you prioritize spending on travel, even if it means cutting back in other areas.
Right. And the key here is guilt-free spending.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
if travel is something that really lights you up, then you shouldn't feel guilty about spending money on it.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that guilt.
What? Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
They feel like they should be saving every penny or only spending on essentials.
Yeah.
But Sethi's approach really encourages people to enjoy their lives.
Right.
And to spend money on things that make them happy.
It's about being intentional.
Exactly.
Right? It's about making conscious choices
Yeah.
about where your money goes.
And not just mindlessly spending on things that you don't even care about.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important distinction to make.
Absolutely.
Because it's not about deprivation.
Right.
It's about empowerment.
It's about taking control of your finances and making them work for you.
Exactly. And speaking of empowerment,
Oh, here we go.
one of my favorite chapters in this book
Mm-hmm.
is all about negotiation.
Yes.
Ramit is a huge proponent of negotiating.
He calls it a superpower.
He does. He calls it a superpower.
And for good reason.
And he really believes that.
Yeah.
Anybody can learn how to do it.
And it's a skill that can pay off big time.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally.
Literally, right. So think about it. Negotiating a lower interest rate
Mm-hmm.
on your credit card. Negotiating a better deal on your cell phone bill.
Your rent even.
Even your rent. Right. These are all things that can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Over time.
Yeah.
Over time. Yeah.
It's crazy how much money we leave on the table just because we don't ask.
And so Ramit really breaks it down. He gives you scripts.
Mm-hmm.
He gives you templates. He talks about the psychology of negotiation.
And he makes it feel so approachable.
He does.
Like anyone can do it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are afraid to negotiate because they think it's going to be confrontational or awkward.
Yeah, or that they're going to come across as greedy.
Right. But Ramit really emphasizes the importance of being polite but firm.
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not about being aggressive.
No, it's about advocating for yourself.
Mm.
It's about advocating for yourself and knowing your worth.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really important message, especially in today's world.
Absolutely.
You know, we need to be able to stand up for ourselves
Yeah.
and ask for what we deserve.
And negotiation is a skill that can be applied to so many areas of life,
Right.
not just finances.
Not just finances, right? So it's a really valuable tool to have in your arsenal.
For sure.
Now, you know, one of the things that I really appreciate about Ramit's approach is this focus on the 80-20 rule.
Oh, yeah.
So this idea that, you know, 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts.
Exactly.
And so he really encourages you to identify those key actions, those high impact activities
that are going to move the needle the most.
Got to move the needle the most and to really focus your energy on those.
So in terms of personal finance, you know, that might mean focusing on things like paying off high interest debt, investing for retirement, negotiating your salary.
Exactly. And, you know, he gives you this really great analogy.
Okay.
He says it's like studying for a test.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to memorize every single detail.
Right.
You just need to focus on the key concepts.
The big ideas.
The big ideas, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with personal finance. You know, you don't need to track every penny. You don't need to obsess over every little purchase. Just focus on those big wins.
The things that are really going to make a difference.
That are really going to make a difference, yeah. And then let the rest of it kind of take care of itself.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's so true.
So now let's talk about investing, because I think this is an area where a lot of people feel intimidated.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially in today's market.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be really overwhelming, right? And so Ramit does a great job of demystifying investing. He breaks it down into simple steps, and he really advocates for low-cost index funds.
Yes.
That's a great starting point for beginners.
Index funds are like the superheroes of investing, especially for people who are just starting out.
And why is that?
Well, for one thing, they're super easy to understand.
Okay.
You're essentially buying a tiny piece of a whole bunch of different companies.
Right.
So you're automatically diversified.
Okay, so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And that's important because it helps to reduce your risk.
Gotcha.
And then another great thing about index funds is that they tend to have really low fees.
Okay.
And that's important because those fees can eat into your returns over time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So with index funds, you're getting broad exposure to the market at a really low cost.
Sure.
And that's why they're such a great option for beginners.
So it's kind of like you're investing in the market as a whole.
Exactly.
Rather than trying to pick individual stocks.
And that can be a lot less stressful.
Right.
Because you don't have to worry about trying to time the market and pick the next hot stock.
Exactly. And Ramit really emphasizes the power of compounding.
Yeah.
Right? So this idea that even small, consistent contributions can grow exponentially over time.
It's like magic.
It's like magic.
You're essentially earning interest on your interest.
Yeah.
And over time, that can really add up.
And so the key here is to start early.
Absolutely.
Right? Even if you can only invest a small amount.
Even if it's just like $10 or $20 a week.
Right.
The important thing is to just start.
And to be consistent.
Exactly.
Because the earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.
And the more you'll benefit from the power of compounding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't let this idea of investing feel intimidating. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Right.
Ramit really breaks it down and makes it accessible for everyone.
And there's so many resources available now, like apps and websites that make it super easy to get started. So there's really no excuse not to invest.
No excuse. Now, finally, let's talk about credit cards.
Here we go.
Because I think this is an area where a lot of people have a lot of fear.
Yeah, credit cards can be scary.
They can be scary.
Especially if you've had a bad experience with them in the past.
Right. And Ramit actually has a really interesting perspective on credit cards.
He does.
He sees them as a tool.
A tool, not a trap.
A tool, not a trap.
Right.
Right. And he really emphasizes the importance of using them responsibly.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the key takeaways
from
Ramit's perspective on credit cards?
Well, first of all, he stresses the importance of building a good credit score.
Okay.
And credit cards can be a great way to do that.
Right.
As long as you use them responsibly.
So how do you use a credit card responsibly?
Well, the key is to pay your balance in full every month.
Okay.
That way you're not accruing interest.
Gotcha.
And you're essentially getting free money.
Right.
Because you're earning rewards without paying any interest.
Ah, that makes sense.
And another important thing is to keep your credit utilization low.
Okay.
So that's basically the amount of credit you're using compared to your credit limit.
Okay.
And the lower your credit utilization, the better.
Gotcha.
Because it shows lenders that you're not maxing out your cards.
Right.
And that you're managing your credit well.
So it's all about being strategic.
Exactly.
Right? And using credit cards to your advantage.
And Ramit provides a lot of great tips on how to do that.
He does.
Like how to choose the right credit cards for your needs, how to maximize your rewards, and how to avoid common pitfalls.
So if, after diving into this book, what's the biggest takeaway you would want our listener to walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that personal finance doesn't have to be scary or complicated.
Right.
Ramit does such a great job of breaking it down into simple, actionable steps that anyone can follow.
And it's really about empowering yourself.
Exactly.
To make smart financial choices.
Yeah.
That align with your values and your goals.
And that's something that I think everyone can benefit from.
Absolutely.
Regardless of their income level.
So if you could design your ideal life, knowing that you had financial security, what would that look like?
That's a great question. I think for me, it would involve a lot of travel, a lot of time with loved ones, and the freedom to pursue my passions without having to worry about money.
That sounds pretty ideal.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
And I think that's what Ramit's book is all about. It's about helping people achieve that kind of freedom.
It's about taking control of your finances.
Exactly.
So you can live the life you want.
And not let money control you.
I love that.
Yes.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive. But, as always, I encourage you to check out the book for yourself.
Yes.
I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. It's full of really practical advice.
Yeah.
And actionable tips that can help you get your finances in order.
And start building a life you want.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.